In the days following the detection of first COVID-19 positive case in the country, Bhutan was closed to tourists, schools were closed, and all international borders sealed. 5 months and over 100 imported cases later, Bhutan's swift action has paid off. But despite increased vigilance along the border, there have been several incidents of people breaching border security. Samti Dzongkhag alone saw over 60 people arrested for border security breach. With active COVID-19 cases in neighboring Indian districts increasing, those residing along the border needs to shoulder extra responsibility. With active coronavirus cases rising on all four fronts, the danger of the virus entering the country through the porous border is high. East Sikkim has 385 active cases, 26 active cases in Kalimpong, 379 in Jalpaiguri, and Alipurduar has 209 active cases. These are the districts bordering Samtsi and Phuentsholing. Jaigaon alone saw 17 active cases in a single day on July 31st. While in different districts of Assam which borders Bhutan, the number of active cases is reaching 400. His Majesty is in the south to review and reinforce the security measures in place. In Samtsi, His Majesty met with people residing in close proximity to the border in Ugense, Yeselse, Sangacholing and Tashicholing Gyeogs. The Prime Minister also accompanied His Majesty during these visits. Like other people in the border areas, these two men from Norbugang Gyeok think that stopping cross-border transmission of the coronavirus is not only the responsibility of the government and those on border duty. The two recently completed their duty along the border as local volunteers.
In Samti town, towards the evening, our king was visiting the shops. I got to see what was happening. And when I went back to my village, I told villagers that His Majesty is here and is very concerned about our safety. And I also told them that we citizens should be cautious and responsible as well.
Here, those living along the border are trying their best so that people won't breach border and the virus won't come in. Measures are already in place and we are abiding by it. There is fear among us. We have been told to inform the Gyeok if there are any problems and that they will bring us solutions to our doorsteps.
Like these local volunteers, over the past 5 months, Army, Police, DESUPs, Customs and Immigration officials, Land Commission officials, and retired armed force personnel have been manning our international borders day and night. From about 200 DESUPs manning the border in Samtsi a month ago, the number has now been increased to over 400. Several CCTV cameras have been installed on all strategic locations to assist the volunteers. New outposts were also set up in an effort to increase vigilance. His Majesty also visited shops in Samtsi town to see how the pandemic has affected local businesses. In a meeting, His Majesty thanked the local leaders of Samtsi and people living along the border for their continuous efforts in making sure Bhutanese do not come in contact with the virus. His Majesty reiterated to the local leaders that going forward, settlements along the border should be extra cautious and continue their good efforts. While in Samtsi, His Majesty also visited Tadingyok, which borders Phuentsholing in the east and Indian village of Totopara in the south. In Phuentsholing, with temperatures reaching close to 40 degrees Celsius, His Majesty walked across 6 villages along the border in Samphelingyok, meeting people and reminding them of the dangers if the virus spreads in the community.
Coronavirus. Please be careful. See, all 400 households. Now let me do. India coronavirus. Be careful.
While going from village to village, His Majesty also visited all the outposts along the way and met with volunteers on duty.
बिचारा धन्ना हाम्रो राजालाई देख्न पाइयो धन्यवाद.
While in Phuentsholing, His Majesty granted audience to Gups and Mamis from 11 Gyeoks in Chukazongkhak. His Majesty also visited high-risk areas in Phuentsholing town, which are close to the border, and visited Jarna area between Pasakha and Phuentsholing. The Prime Minister, who accompanied His Majesty on the tour, met with local leaders from the two Dzongkhak separately, while emphasizing on avoiding community transmission of COVID-19 at all cost. His Majesty also granted an audience to frontline workers in Phuentsholing. His Majesty thanked them for their resolute service when most needed. His Majesty further commanded them to continue their efforts without losing focus. In the past week, the Ministry of Health conducted over 16,000 random rapid diagnostics tests or RDT to rule out any possible community transmission of COVID-19. The random samples include frontline workers, border communities, mobile workers like truck and taxi drivers, outpatients in hospitals, schools and institutions, and factory workers. All RDT results came out negative. Meanwhile, in the past 2 weeks, His Majesty granted audiences to Desups undergoing the 41st batch training at Damthang, Jimili, Pelritha, Tashigasel, Tashicholing, Tendu, Tenchuling, Shaba and Dechicholing. With the completion of the current batch, the total number of Desups will reach 14,844. Sherab Doji, BBS News, Samtse.